Okay, dokie, people.
Yeah.
What is happening? How you darn? How you darn? It's a great day to be talking 2024. More specifically, the Dynasty rookie draft class. We have been just diving in head first into the film consistently over the last couple months, and very excited to do these streams with you guys. Do us a huge favor if you just joined. Smash that like button. It's a very simple way for you to help support the channel and help this channel grow. We do have a goal to get to 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year, which is really only,
Come on.
I mean, 2.5 weeks away. So
Yeah.
it may not happen, but we'll see.
We'll see what happens. You
We'll
never
see.
know.
But definitely subscribe if you have yet to subscribe. Hit the like button. But in today's video, we are going to be doing a 2024 rookie mock draft. Superflex, of course, and the way that people can join Badaki, we'll say that in a second. But what's up, Eric? What's up, Depot, Waffle, Brandon, Green, Daniel, Brandon? Classes in session, Spencer says. All right, so I see some questions in the chat, guys. This won't be a Q&A to begin, but at the end of today's stream, we'll leave time for some questions.
Yeah, we'll talk about some stuff, no doubt about it. A lot of stuff has changed, actually, since the last time we were live.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But Daniel had a question. He says, is the mock link going to be in the DynastyLand Discord? So, Badaki, why don't you let people know how they can join today's mock draft if they so choose to?
Yeah, absolutely. All you have to do is join our Discord, guys. Link in the description. The link should be in the chat here in a second. So once that happens, go to the Discord, which I'll put the link in the Discord. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second before I continue. All right, that link is in the chat and now, and also in the description below. But once you go and join our Discord, all you have to do is go to the Fantasyland tab on the left with the orange footballs, and then go to content releases, and that's exactly where I will be posting the link to the mock draft. That's where we post every single link to every mock draft that we are going to do from now on until next season. Okay, so keep that in mind. Don't go looking anywhere else. Let me join this mock draft here. I'll choose number 7, and I will be sending that link. Once again, join our Discord, go to Fantasyland tab with the orange footballs, go to content releases, and that's exactly where I will be posting this mock draft link. 3, 2, 1.
Okay, so while that fills up, we will be just getting on the same page here, guys. The way this is going to work is we'll be drafting kickers. And when it's your turn, you draft a kicker. If you're in the draft with us, then in the sleeper chat, you type in the name that you actually want to draft. We'll use our Photoshop magic, if you will, to add that name. And then we'll have some discussions about some of these players. So just so everyone knows exactly how this is going to go. Now, last week, we didn't use landing spots. We just wanted to talk about these players specifically. But we are now going to introduce landing spots into the equation. And for the first link, or for the first time today with these landing spots, we'll be using a mock draft from Draft Countdown. This is draftcountdown.com by Shane Hallam. By the way, someone commented on our one quarterback video because we use these spots as well and said, that's my brother that did the mock draft. So apparently Shane's brother might watch some of our content, which is cool. Which is cool to see. But I'll go ahead and put a link in the chat for you guys, so you can see this. You can see where the landing spots are. So there you go. Landing spot link is in the chat. Discord's in the chat. We are completely full. So what we'll go ahead and do is, again, we'll get on the same page for anybody watching this later. We're doing a 2024 Superflex Dynasty rookie mock draft. The link in the chat will be where the landing spots are for these guys. We'll be talking about landing spots. If you're watching this later, check out the description. You'll see the link there. When people draft a player, they just click a kicker and then they put in the sleeper chat who they want to select. And then we'll have conversations about these names. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get this thing started. Dynasty Dude is on the clock. Let me make sure this is linear and no time limit. There we go. All right, so we'll wait and see what he is going to do. So if you're not seeing a link in the Discord, you're not in the right channel. We tried to explain there, so hopefully you guys were able to look at that.
Join the Discord. Join the Discord. Link in the description, and the link is in the chat.
What's up, Styles? What's up? Startup mocks soon? Yeah, definitely we'll be doing that soon. Okay, guys, let's... Okay, so the first player off the board, and this is becoming a trend. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's wrong, but the first player off the board is Marvin Harrison Jr. out of Ohio State. Clearly the number one pick in a one quarterback format, but you know, he definitely, like, you can make a case that he should be in contention for the 101, even in a super flex format. He's that good of a prospect. I mean, the top, in my opinion, like the top 5 or 6 are all really, really good in this year's class. So Marvin Harrison Jr. goes off the board at the 101, and in this mock draft, he ends up with the Arizona Cardinals with the 2nd overall pick. Shout out to Shane with the landing spots. So he's a Cardinal. He's going to link up with Kyler Murray over in Arizona. This is my ideal landing spot for him. I think it's great for Kyler Murray. I got a lot of Kyler Murray stocks. Would love to see him link up with him. And it's great for Marvin Harrison Jr. because he instantly steps into a scenario in which you have a competent quarterback, you know, throwing him the football. So I think it's a win-win for both of these teams. It's a clear need for the franchise. And it makes sense for Marvin Harrison Jr. You know, a lot of times these guys who are drafted at the top of the board, there's bad quarterback play. This is not one of those scenarios. This is not Garrett Wilson going to the Jets. This is not Drake London going to the Falcons. You know, it's an elite wide receiver going to a quarterback that can absolutely help him be a top 12 wide receiver in fantasy football from year 1 onwards.
Yeah, 100%. Very impactful here. Like you said, a huge conversation if you want to go with a prospect, which we talked about earlier, could easily feel more secure than these quarterbacks. You don't know if Caleb's going to be successful. You don't know if Drake May or Jaden Daniels is going to be successful. I would say it feels like right now, Marvin Harrison has a 75+% chance of being successful for fantasy and in real life compared to some of these quarterbacks. But maybe that's just a feeling that I have. But yes, I love Marvin Harrison going to the Cardinals here at the 101.
Yeah, looks good for him. I'm a big fan of. Obviously, this class is great, guys. I mean, we keep saying it, and people keep commenting that people are falling too far. People keep saying, you guys are too low on this. You're too low on this player. You're too low on this player. The reality is this class is just so freaking good that great players are going to fall down the board. It's just how it's going to go. By the way, Waffle Houser, what's up, my man? He says, I need this so bad. How much is a yearly sub? Been talking about it forever with the new tools. Might have to pull the trigger. Yeah, I guess we'll just quickly let anyone know that if you do want to support what we do over here, then you can go to the Flock Fantasy website. You can use our promo code LAND. That will get you 30% off any membership. Now, if you choose the Mother Flocker tier, which is the best tier over there, you're going to unlock a couple things. Let's break that down real quick before we get to the next pick. First thing, you're going to get a Dynasty team review. One of your Dynasty teams will be reviewed by us on a live stream. We'll give you advice where we see your team amongst the league, you know, some trades that you can make, some moves that we would do, and give you kind of a reality check of where you stand in that Dynasty league. So you get a Dynasty team review. You get our scouting and ranking package for the rookies. That will be out by the end of this month. That will be a PDF just chocked full of all these players with our scouting grades, pro comps, strengths, weaknesses. That is a great resource for people every year. It's going to be beautifully done. It will never be... so far, since we started doing that, it will never be prettier than it is today. Easier to view and easier to see how we feel about these players. That's available to you. The rankings consistently update. You also get our regular Dynasty rankings, Superflex, one quarterback. No matter what you play, you'll have regular rankings as well as the rookie rankings throughout, you know, this draft season. You'll also get articles from everyone in the industry. You'll get the fantasy hotline, which is a direct DM to us. You can ask us a question at any moment. You know, we'll answer in the DMs. So there's so much value over on that site. And we actually just added a trade calculator, which is the best calculator in the industry. It's consistently getting better. You know, this calculator, man, I mean, there is nothing that you can't do. I mean, how big is your league? right? Because we have all the settings for you to kind of, are you going to redraft or are you going to dynasty? Well, we're talking about dynasty today. Is it full PPR, half PPR, no PPR? Is there a tight end premium? Are you in an 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 man league? Is it super flex or not? You can even customize how many bench. Do you have 40 plus bench spots? I mean, are you starting 6 wide receivers? All that goes into the context when you look at our dynasty trade calculator. We put premiums on those premium players. And very, very soon in the next couple weeks, you'll be able to use, actually right now, you can already use like my rankings if you want to see how I would trade. Based on my rankings, you can do expert consensus across the experts on the site and community rankings, what the community thinks. So I truly don't think there is a better bang for your buck than what we're offering over on the Flock Fantasy website. So if you do want to support us, I put that link in the chat. So much that you get in return. But without further ado, let's go ahead and go to the 102, Badaki. This is going to be probably consensus, I imagine, across most of your leagues in a super flex format. You know, maybe there'll be some outliers, but Caleb Williams comes off the board here at the 102. In this mock draft, we saw Caleb Williams go to the Chicago Bears with the first pick. Now they also added an offensive lineman, Olu Fashanu, with their 4th overall pick. So they added a tackle last year. Now they add another tackle, an Olu Fashanu. They've got DJ Moore, Caleb Williams behind a good offensive line. Who knows what kind of package they get back for Justin Fields if they do draft Caleb Williams. But Caleb goes at the 102. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, he is a great play extender. I think he's good in structure. I don't think that the structure around him was good this year. That's the way I view it. I mean, the more I watched his film, the more I was impressed by him because of the lack of talent really around him on both sides of the ball. Love Caleb Williams, and I think that we're getting some prospect fatigue with his name in particular.
Yeah, 100%. I think, one of the guys that we keep hearing generational talent. And he goes to the Chicago Bears, who do have key foundational pieces on this offense. DJ Moore. You have Cole Kmet, who has been in my opinion, a top 10 tight end throughout the season with Justin Fields, and he only gets a better quarterback here. Like you said, Olu Fashanu, this offensive line gets more and more improved. They got some key, decent pieces on the defense. They still need to improve there, but look, I can easily see this team also investing in another wide receiver in the 2nd round, because we expect Darnell Mooney to be walking at some point in time. Chase Claypool is non-existent, so you expect DJ Moore and then somebody else to be part of this team to come in here for Caleb Williams. Or maybe they go on the free agency market, right, and get somebody along those lines. Be it Caleb Williams, one of the top prospects coming into this draft here at the 102. Love the landing spot going to Chicago. That means Justin Fields is going to my beloved New York Football Giants. You guys been hearing me say this narrative. I want it to happen. Please. I can't wait. I can't wait for the NFL draft. And the 103 here, by the way, Heisman winner.
My
Congratulations.
Guy.
Zach's my guy. Somebody that he loves. I know you say there's conversations of him going at the 103 ahead of a quarterback that he's already gone ahead of. Jaden Daniels going here at the 103. 2 in this mock draft. He's going to the New England Patriots. Does Bill Belichick leave? Does Bill Belichick say? Now, the biggest question mark here is what weapons does he have around him? Not much. But hey, Demario Douglas.
I believe in the 2nd round of this mock draft, he adds a really good weapon that I love.
So he gets a weapon in the 2nd round and Demario Douglas. Interesting.
So Jaden Daniels off the board at the 103, and I guess I just want to clarify, right? I'm not claiming that Jaden Daniels should be over Drake May. I want to clarify that I believe they are in the same conversation from a fantasy perspective, how I value a fantasy quarterback. This is a quarterback who could lead the league in rushing, and he has an incredible arm. I think too many people only focus on his rushing upside. Yeah, he rushed for over 1,000 yards and 10 rushing touchdowns in back-to-back years. He's the only quarterback in college football history to have over 350 passing yards and 200 plus rushing yards in a single game. So people focus so much on his rushing ability, rightfully so, because he'll be a top 3 to 5 runner in the NFL at the quarterback position from day one, from the day he enters the NFL. So rightfully so, but often people associate a running quarterback as, okay, they're not actually that good of a passer. I think people think Anthony Richardson, who still could develop into being a better passer, but entered the NFL, 53% of his passes completed at Florida. The accuracy wasn't there. The touch wasn't there. Inconsistencies. Jaden Daniels is a extremely accurate quarterback. He completed over 71% of his passes. He had the best deep ball grade, throws over 20 plus yards in college football last year. He's a great passer at all levels of the field. Now, of course, all these prospects have areas that they need to improve in, but yeah, so I think you absolutely can make a case for him here. I'm not angry at this. See, I think a lot of people would be angry. They'd be like, what the hell? There's no way you can talk about this guy over the likes of a Drake May. And it's not to disrespect Drake May, because Drake May is just as deserving of being the 102 as Caleb Williams, right? But it's more to put respect on how good this quarterback class is, how good the talent is in this class overall. So yeah, he goes off the board there. I'm a big fan of his game. I see a lot of RG3. And it was funny because I said that in one of our videos recently, Badaki. I was like, I see a lot of RG3 in his game. Think about how exciting that would be in today's NFL if you got an RG3 type prospect, a lighter version of Jalen Hurts, not as strong as Jalen Hurts, right? And someone replied to that in a comment section and said, you just completely destroyed all your credibility by saying that because RG3 was injured throughout his career. And I went back and I looked at all the quarterbacks that were injured this year and how many of them are pocket passers. Guys that you would not attribute to rushing upside. The amount of injuries to quarterbacks this year, it's like, guys, we play. The NFL is a violent sport. Any position could go down for the year at any moment. And, you know, the reality of playing the quarterback position is you're going to get hit. You're going to take a lot of hard hits from defensive linemen. Anyone could get injured, though. Anyone's liable to be injured, right? So that's just the reality of the position. I just thought it was funny. I started listing off all these quarterbacks that are pocket passers this year that are injured for the entire year, right? So yeah, I just think, again, I'm not saying he's the clear cut 103. I'm saying he's in the conversation, and I'm a big fan of his game.
100%. There's definitely conversations for Jane Daniel to go at the 102 or be the second quarterback overall off the board in the NFL draft. It just depends on the landing spot. There's going to be a lot of landing spots. Like Drake May, which we'll talk about now, he goes here at the 104 to the New York Giants. It depends on where you like. Are we going to be seeing, do you like Jaden Daniels over Drake May, who goes to the New York Giants, or Jaden Daniels, who goes to New England Patriots? I think when it comes down to where these quarterbacks are going to be going, at the time in your rookie drafts, it's going to be all dependent on landing spots in some of your leagues, in my opinion. Some people are going to go with the prospects, some people are going to go with the landing spots, some people are going to go differently in different ways. But Drake May, one of my favorite quarterbacks coming out of this class, 6'4", 200 plus, an amazing deep ball, also has very underrated mobility as well.
Yes.
You know, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I forgot who I compared him to, actually. I think I said the likes of, like, you know, Daniel Jones, Josh Allen, these kind of traits. He is not as fast and fluid and explosive like the Jaden Daniels or like the Caleb Williams or like the Lamar Jacksons, of course. But he does have underrated legs to where he could extend the pocket. He can step up and get an extra 15, 20, any type of big yards. And that's exactly what you want to see here. He's not just a pure pocket passer. All three of these guys have legs that can extend and play, and that's exactly what you want to see here. Now, are any one of these three prospects complete? No. Not all these guys have all different types of flaws. You just have to figure out which one you would like, which one you prefer, which landing spot you prefer. But I think all three of these guys are going to be top tier quarterbacks in the NFL, are going to be going in the top 5 in the NFL draft. And Drake May, once again, going to my beloved New York Football Giants, who I love. I would say a more complete Daniel Jones, I would just say a more complete Daniel Jones, which the more I think about it, the more I think about it, like, yeah, and you said this is not exciting. I guess as a Giants fan, there's not a big pivot, right? Like, we're going to Daniel Jones to a more polished Daniel Jones and Drake May. And that's not taking any credit away from what Drake has done. As a Giants fan, I think I just want something different, basically. But anyways, love Drake May going here at the 104.
Yeah, I mean, my floor comp for him was Daniel Jones. My ceiling is Justin Herbert. That was my favorite comp. You know, Justin Herbert definitely has some mobility. He's got a rocket arm. He's a big, you know, stands in the pocket really well. But I'm a big fan of Drake May's game. He had the most big time throws this year at 36, the sixth highest big time throw percentage. His deep ball passing grade, according to PFF, was third with a 97.1 grade. He's got incredible velocity. He senses pressure really well in the pocket. He's a great athlete. 16 rushing touchdowns in the last 2 years. You know, that's good to see. He's a perfect size for a franchise quarterback. And, you know, the more and more I think people, you know, learn about quarterbacks, they realize size, it's actually a skill. It actually is a skill. Like you might need to be there's outliers that aren't that big, but typically they need to be that big to be elite. But he's a great deep ball thrower. And the last thing I would just say, my favorite thing about Drake May is he's an on-the-go learner. And what I mean by that is you can see in multiple games this year where he would actively, like, he would struggle. He would struggle versus a defense, not exactly understanding what they're trying to do to stop him, but he would actively learn, and he would actively change his game to adjust towards that defensive, game plan. And he did a really good job of actively learning during these games. That to me is an NFL quarterback trait. You know, every week there are coordinators paid millions and millions of dollars to decide how to stop your game. If you can learn on the go, I mean, I think NFL teams will really, really love that part of his game.
Yeah, and, you know, one of the things that I see, like Brandon said, is something missing with May, and I thought the same thing when I was scouting him. And I think I came to the realization is that he is not as exciting as when you watch Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams. He has all the attributes. He's doing all the right things. He's progressing. He has mobility. He's not making the crazy throws that Caleb has. He's not making those Jaden Daniels has, you know, these massive playmakers on his team that when he goes into big games is massive. You go to with Drake May, there's really not that much talent besides what is it, Tez Walker, right? Tez Walker going for Drake May. I think when you look at these games, there's no excitement in Drake May, and I think that can change potentially on the landing spot that he does go to with the weapons around him.
Yeah, I agree.
Anything can
and
happen.
You know, I think Drake and Caleb both get a pass on the talent around them because, you know, you put them in LSU, I'm sure they put up similar numbers to Jaden Daniels this year and are real Heisman favorites for sure. Brandon's in the chat, by the way. He says it feels pointless to be doing this in December. You guys have nothing else to make content on. I gotta be honest with Daki. This is the first comment I've ever seen on our Dynasty channel where someone is upset that we're talking about rookies, upset that we're talking about the next class. I truly do not understand people putting like effort into, like, what's the point of that comment? Like, are you just trying to tear people down? You're putting energy into.
I think what's funny is
what
that,
are you putting
like,
your energy into? Like, why? But you're here watching and.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're here watching, or he's clearly subscribed because he commented and maybe unsubscribed. And then
I'm pretty sure I've seen him in the comments before. Look, Brandon, not sure if you had a bad day. I'm not sure what's going on. I don't really understand like putting like effort into being hateful online. Not that this is a hateful comment, but like just being negative online. Like, what's the point? Like, you could not watch. That's an option, right? You could unsubscribe. That's an option, right?
A lot of things can happen, yeah.
Just like putting effort into like tearing a community down is just so strange to me. But it just shows like the disconnect between online presence, like you'll never see me face to face, and the like online community. Do you know what I mean? It's just like this weird disconnect where people are like, I don't know, it's strange. But Brandon, feel free to unsubscribe, my guy. Button's right there. Button's right there. The next pick on the board for anyone who is excited about talking about this class is Malik Neighbors, a wide receiver that I absolutely love. In this mock draft, he actually goes to the New York Jets. I'm not thrilled about that landing spot, but you're going to have Aaron Rodgers throwing you the ball for at least a year, if not more. I think you and I both agree Aaron Rodgers is going to give the Jets 2 years. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
So I love the landing spot personally. Yes, it's unfortunate that you've got a talent like Garrett Wilson that you're competing with targets. But let's be honest, like, how far out do you have to stretch that target share? I mean, you can go Malik Neighbors and Malik Neighbors and Garrett Wilson. Like, you can throw the ball to those guys 10 times a game each. It's not that complicated with how good these guys are. So
yeah. I'm really interested to see if something like this does happen. You know, I'm concerned for the longevity, obviously, with Aaron Rodgers, even though you kind of just said, look, we're going to give him 2 years, right? But when I talk about the longevity, it's like, we love the idea when Tyreek Hill went with Jalen Waddle. Does he become something of a little bit inconsistent now? Or does he become something like a T. Higgins, who we like, and we keep seeing the upside every single year, but is capped at a certain point, right? I'm interested to see if I'm going to be feeling that way if he does go to a team like this, to a Jets who already has an elite wide receiver 1, because he can easily be an elite wide receiver 2. Or does he become a Devonta Smith who has seen success week in and week out at some points, obviously a little bit more inconsistent this year, but there's just a little bit of a different, and when I say these names, I'm not talking about the way he plays, I'm talking about the fantasy production that he is going to be bringing coming into this, going into a team like this. But yeah, I'm interested in this landing spot. Not my favorite personally, but I just see a capped upside here with Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson. So but I could be wrong. Maybe it's a Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb type of thing in their prime, where it was like back and forth, like holy shit, that would be crazy. But I don't know.
I think this is where you and I just see this prospect differently, because my mind is more worried about Garrett Wilson, not worried about Malik Neighbors, and that speaks to how much I like Malik Neighbors as a prospect.
With that being said, that sounds like you would like Malik Neighbors as an overall wide receiver better than Garrett Wilson.
I think he's just as talented and just as highly rated as a prospect in my eyes than Garrett Wilson. I would not devalue Malik Neighbors because Garrett Wilson is there personally.
But that's the thing. I would agree with you. I don't think he automatically becomes like, I don't think he could surpass Garrett Wilson once there, personally. Okay, I think Garrett Wilson would always be the number one.
That's what I'm trying to say. I think that's where we disagree. That's where we disagree. I don't believe that Malik Neighbors is taking a back seat to Garrett Wilson. If anything, these guys are both shining at the same time. Malik Neighbors is not an inferior prospect to the likes of a Garrett Wilson. In fact, if they're in the same class, I'm not sure if Garrett Wilson goes ahead. I'm not saying he wouldn't, but I'm not 100% sure if Garrett Wilson gets drafted ahead of him. But I'm a huge fan of Malik Neighbors. Like I said, I think there's 2 elite wide receiver prospects in this class. Marvin Harrison Jr., obviously, and we can also say, in my opinion, Malik Neighbors is an elite wide receiver prospect. The number 1 PFF receiving grade in the nation of any wide receiver who had 50 targets, 92.7 grade. He's a super versatile player. Neighbors fits today's NFL better. Like, I don't want to sound drastic, but outside of Marvin Harrison, I think this is why I think they're in the same tier. I think he fits the NFL perfectly, like a glove. Like, he is the perfect 100% fit for any NFL team for the way that the modern NFL works. You can put this guy anywhere on the field. You can scheme up 15 touches a game if you want in different ways. You can put him out wide. You can put him in the slot. He spent about half his time out wide and in the slot this year at LSU. And a lot of people say he's not the same route runner as Marvin Harrison Jr. Respectfully, I don't believe those people have watched Malik Neighbors all 22 film, because yes, he is an elite route runner. He is an elite route runner, and he shouldn't be devalued because Marvin Harrison Jr. is in the same class. Great ball skills, very good hands, and I think after the catch, you can make a case. Again, there's nuance here. I'm not saying he is, but I think you can make a case that he is maybe better after the catch than the likes of a Marvin Harrison Jr. They're 2 different players. They offer you something different, but I think they both have complete games. I see a lot of Reggie Wayne in Malik Neighbors. So I don't personally think there's many NFL teams he can get drafted to where I'm saying, damn, he's taking a back seat. I just don't personally view it that way. I think he's as good as Garrett Wilson. I think he might be in the same class of Garrett Wilson. He might have been drafted ahead of him. That's how good he is in my opinion. So yeah, big fan of his game. He goes off the board here to the Jets. Now, I'll agree with you, Badaki, in the sense of like, it's ideal for you to go somewhere where there's not a Garrett Wilson, right? Like that's ideal, but it doesn't necessarily worry me. This is a player where I don't care where he goes. I'm betting on the talent. I mean, you could genuinely like put this guy in the Titans. I don't care. He's in the top 5 for me. You know, I just think he's a transcendent type of talent. At the 106, Badaki, this is not a tight end premium format, but this is where the first tight end goes off the board. And correct me if I'm wrong, he did go to the Bengals in the landing spots that we're using. So the Bengals get Brock Bowers, and Brock Bowers goes off the board at the 106. He's linking up with Joe Burrow. I guess you'd have to assume that T. Higgins walks in this scenario. But
yeah, agreed.
Brock Bowers is, you know, he's a generational tight end prospect. There's prospect fatigue for some of these names for people, and that's because they've gotten into Devy football or they've seen these players for multiple years producing, and there's some fatigue on some of these names. Caleb Williams is one of those names. Brock Bowers is another name that people are you know, getting some fatigue, if you will, on the prospect. But he's absolutely just as good of a prospect as Kyle Pitts, if not better. He is, in my opinion, the best tight end in college football ever. Genuinely, the best ever in college football. I think he absolutely translates to the next level. To me, you put him in Cincinnati, I mean, he's competing with Jamar Chase for the #1 target share there. Obviously, Chase is going to get the preference, but I think you're seeing 7 to 8 targets a game and connected to one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL. So I love that pick right there.
Yeah, completely agree. You know, obviously there are some, I would say 1 or 2 other players I would definitely go over. I mean, at least right now, based on this mock draft, I would go 1 other player over him, which I will take here. But yeah, but Brock Bowers, I really like here going to the Cincinnati Bengals. I would agree. If they draft Brock Bowers, T. Higgins most likely is going to walk. I think even without Brock Bowers, I do envision T. Higgins walking personally, and I think that's, I don't know, we kind of talked about that a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, Brock Bowers going here. By the way, very, very good.
Someone asked, where's the first tier break? I would say probably after the 105 to me. And it's not like there's like this huge drop. Like, how do I explain this? Well, like, I feel like
it's not a huge drop at all. Like,
from the 106 onwards, you're getting like an early first in 2023's class, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's just such a good class. And, you know, I think the 105 though is where there is a slight tier break, but it's not like to the point where you're like, damn, I really wish I had the 105. I'm stuck with the 106. Like, no, you're gonna get an incredible player still.
I don't see that big of a tier. Like, the way I think about it, I put it into steps. You know, step 1 is the first 5, and then step 2 is the next tier, right? Like, it's not like multiple steps in between where you're trying to skip 2 to 3 steps. No, it's back to back in steps. You know. Sure. Hopefully that's a good analogy. But at the 107 here, I am on the clock. One of my favorite wide receivers, one of your favorite wide receivers as well here, Rome Odunze, going to the Buffalo Bills.
Yes.
Linking up with one of the best quarterbacks, one of the best fantasy quarterbacks in the NFL currently, and that is Josh Allen. Obviously, Stephon Diggs is there, and you look, this could easily be a transition to a new #1 when Stephon Diggs does leave this team. You know, if I'm not mistaken, he has a contract until I think 2 more years or 3 more years.
It's a long contract, man.
Okay, but he does have it out, and there has been a lot of interesting things and narratives about Stephon Diggs in the past.
There has.
This past year. So, you know, we've seen this narrative of Stephon Diggs saying how true it is, we don't know. But if there's any life in those reports, there's been saying Stephon Diggs can walk. We're not loving Stephon Diggs. He wants to go to another team. He hates that he's capped every single time just going to the playoffs. He wants to make it to the Super Bowl. If that's truly the case, Rome Odunze, one of my favorite wide receivers here coming out of Washington, I can easily see him coming here to the Buffalo Bills at the 107. I personally would have taken the Rome Odunze over Brock Bowers. Now in the tight end premium, it's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, agreed.
Absolutely. But yeah, 107 right here for Rome Odunze. We kind of had this little built. If you had to build Rome Odunze with, wide receivers in the NFL right now, I think for me, I just remember the hands. He has T. Higgins hands, meaning that he has strong hands at the catch point, and then he kind of builds off in all these different types of wide receivers. But I love Rome Odunze, one of the most underrated route runners, somebody that can go up and get the ball, that can play in the middle, in the slot as well, if you really want to put him in there. But yeah, Rome Odunze here at the 108. 108?
Yeah.
107.
Rome is, I would encourage anyone to find a flaw in his game. There really isn't. You said T. Higgins' hands. The way I view him is if you put Cortland Sutton's contested catch ability, if you combine that with Chris Olave's route running, and I think you're getting a player like Rome Odunze. And that's a player that instantly kind of starts, you're expecting in the first 3 weeks for him to start getting 8, 9, 10 targets per game,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's such a strong class. You're right. And then non-tight end premium, I probably go Rome over Brock, but it's very close. And I think they're both within that conversation there. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense there to grab Rome. And as far as Stephon Diggs goes, he is on contract until 2027.
Sheesh.
The age of 34.
But does he have out this year or next year?
He has an out after 2024, but
okay, so next year essentially.
Yeah, he is. I'm not saying he's not the same player right now, but there's clearly something off between the Allen Diggs connection lately.
Yeah, there's a disconnect for sure.
There's a disconnect
100%.
between him, between Allen, between the role that they have for him. He has not been in the last 5 weeks the same player that he has been for multiple years. And I don't think that has everything to do with him. It's just there's a disconnect right now. And I would not be surprised if they're looking at the wide receiver room and thinking, we got Kincaid in the first last year. That's looking great. But we need another guy that's going to take us over the hill right now. So I would not be surprised if they grab a wide receiver in this year's draft. By the way, guys, do us a massive favor. Over 160 of you watching the stream, and smash that like button. It's just a very simple way for you to help this channel grow. Let's get over 100 likes. We're already halfway there. Do us a favor, smash that like button for us.
We appreciate you guys.
And here at the 108, we will see what Brandon has cooking for us. He says, I'll fall for the trap and take Xavier Worthy.
Which makes sense. Makes sense here.
Xavier Worthy off the board. He went to the Chiefs in the first round of this mock draft, didn't he?
Yeah, he goes to the Chiefs here. We'll pick the 29th overall pick in the NFL draft, and he says he's falling for the trap, which means we've seen this trap in previous seasons, previous years, where you go to the Kansas City Chiefs, you link up with Patrick Mahomes, and you're just another field stretcher, or you have this crazy ceiling upside like a Sky Moore, right? And we've seen that with like a Clyde Edwards-Helaire going in the first. This is one of the landing spots I hope Xavier Worthy doesn't go to. I've been saying this ever since I've seen this, ever since I've been watching Xavier Worthy's tape, and people saying, I want him to go to the Chiefs. No, I don't want that. Even though I can see him being successful there, I just think you can put him in a box, which I don't like. I think he's one of the most underrated route runners, a guy that can play in the slot, but most likely plays on the outside, and he predominantly played on the outside in Texas. Great. He doesn't have great hands. I think that's Troy, actually. Xavier Worthy does have some drop issues, but somebody that I still really like coming into this class here. Great size, great speed, someone that can extend the play and take it the distance here. I love Xavier Worthy. Don't love the landing spot, but I understand why you can see the upside here going to the Kansas City Chiefs.
So I don't love the landing spot either, but I also don't want to dock a prospect just because of what we've seen in the past. I'm trying to think this through right now. As someone who likes the Chiefs, I love Kelsey. I don't see the same fire for the game. I don't see the same passion. He just does not look as excited about football than he has in the past. And I'm not saying that he's not trying hard enough or anything like that. Like, I love the guy. But I just am not sure if you're the Chiefs GM right now and you're hearing Kelsey talk about retirement here and there. I'm not sure you're planning on waiting for him to fall off to add talent, waiting for him to retire to add talent. And I look at a player like Xavier Worthy, and yes, he has some clear weaknesses with the drops. I mean, he makes some incredible catches, but he drops the stupid ones and like the easy ones. And that's, as a Chiefs fan, you're like, oh God, please give me anyone else. But if he puts it all together, that could be an extremely exciting weapon to kind of pair with Rashee Rice. If they were to draft him in the first round, it indicates to me that they have a lot of faith in him becoming potentially their number one weapon at some point. So he's a very skilled player, electric to watch, and I could see it working out. But at the same time, I wouldn't bump him up in my opinion of the player
in your rankings
because he goes to the Chiefs. So there's that fine line there.
I get that. And one of the narrative that you were talking about, I wonder if Travis Kelce is the one hindering these targets, these opportunities, him being able, Patrick Mahomes specifically, to hone in on a target, even though we've seen it with Tyreek Hill, who is an elite wide receiver talent right now. Does that shift with someone like an Xavier Worthy if Travis Kelce is no longer on this team? Does that shift to Rashee Rice if Travis Kelce is no longer with the team, or anyone else? I'm interested to see what that looks like, because I think, Travis is still there, and I think Patrick Mahomes is still looking for him, and maybe that's what's potentially hurting him in a way. But I could be wrong. I don't watch all the Chiefs games. I think you know a little bit more about that. But I still like Xavier Worthy. I get it. Docking him going to the Chiefs could be the biggest mistake you can make in this first round this year, potentially. But that could also be the best pivot that you'd made this year as well. So I completely understand what you're talking about.
Yeah. At the 109, I am a little bit surprised. I am not saying this is the wrong pick. I am just surprised that I'll just be honest, guys. Like, at this point, with the quarterback and wide receiver talent in this class, I would not personally take a running back in the first round. I might go as far as to say even in a one quarterback, but that's probably too far. Definitely in a super flex. I don't personally think there's a running back worthy of being a first round pick in this year's draft with how deep those other positions are. But we did just get our first running back off the board, and that running back is Braylon Allen. You can see this is last time when we did just talent evaluation, no landing spots, he went at the 304. But in this mock draft, we know draft capital is ultimately the most important thing for a running back when drafting them for dynasty purposes. He went in the second round to the Minnesota Vikings. So Braylon Allen goes off the board here. I love this landing spot for him. We talked about this in the one quarterback mock. It makes a ton of sense. I mean, watching Alexander Mattison, Ty Chandler, Cam Akers this year, and all those other just Kene Ngwaku, whatever his name is, like, they clearly don't have an answer. Now, I'm a little bit concerned about the fit just because I think about the Vikings offense. Kevin O'Connell is kind of setting up this real pass-happy system. They draft Jordan Addison. They've got Justin Jefferson. I think Kirk Cousins is probably back on this team. So I don't love the idea of Braylon Allen in like a pass-happy system. I'm just not sure what sort of carries you can guarantee to him there. He's not a bad pass catcher, but he certainly isn't going to be featured as one at the next level. And I don't really think he is like this, athlete that you put in space and just let him make people miss after the catch, So I don't know that I love the fit, but it's second round draft capital. And, he goes here in the first round. Surprising to me. I'm not saying it's a wrong pick. We're all open to ideas at this point of the process, but any thoughts before we move on?
No. I would just second everything that you said. Not somebody that we're extremely high on. I would say this. I'm interested to see. I think if he drops a significant amount of weight and still has that speed that we were looking at, I will be interested. Yeah. Because if he drops the weight and has the speed, then he can become a little bit more versatile to an offense. But if he still has this way at the NFL Combine, and he goes to an offense that doesn't, the Vikings last year were the first amongst the NFL in throwing the ball. I'm pretty sure it's very similar, maybe even top 10.
When,
It's
when
probably
Kirk
not.
Cousins was healthy, they were right up there. They were top 3 again
Yeah,
this year.
and the reason why we liked Alexander Madison, or why you liked Alexander Madison, was the pass catching opportunities. So it's going to be interesting unless something changes in that offense. I don't think Braylon Allen is the perfect fit for that one. If you're telling me he is a stronger pass catching running back coming into this offense, maybe we can have a different conversation. But Braylon Allen doesn't, like, if he goes to the team and Alexander Madison's there, the pass catching back is going to be Alexander Madison.
Yeah, 100%. Like in today's NFL, where there very rarely is a do it all back, Braylon Allen, in my opinion, does not fit that profile of like a do it all. And that's the kind of guy you want to draft in the first round of a rookie draft. Your Bijan Robinsons of the world. There is no Bijan Robinson in this class. There's no Jahmyr Gibbs in this class. Let's be honest. Like, it's not a very good running back class. And the way the NFL is trending, where there's, committee backs everywhere, I think Braylon absolutely will have a role, but he's not a complete back. So,
I like to be wrong, though. I like him. I actually like him.
I like him too. I mean, you watch his 2022 film, that's an exciting player. But I think people who love him maybe haven't watched the 2023 film enough, because that guy is not making many people miss in the NFL, right? You are winning with strength alone, and that can work. But, people point to Derrick Henry as if there are Derrick Henry growing on trees, and as if that's common. What if he's A.J. Dillon? People point to Derrick Henry. What if he's A.J. Dillon? I'm just saying.
Be careful.
So.
That is interesting here. You have the 110. What are you thinking here? A couple good options.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised by a name that's still on the board, Badaki. And when I look at draft capital, again, the landing spots that we're using, this player was drafted in the first round. He was drafted to a spot that, like, I mean, I may be wrong, but I think we'd all be obsessed with. Love this player. In the first round, he gets drafted to the Houston Texans. This is where I'm going to take Troy Franklin off the board at the 110. He links up with C.J. Stroud in H-Town. And you and I talked about this on the one quarterback mock this week. But to me, I think the Texans will indicate to us how they feel about their wide receiver room this offseason.
Which, by the way, sucks because they're injured.
Yes, they are all injured. But sucks. if you think about it, a big question in the Dynasty community right now is, okay, is Nico Collins legit? Is this their wide receiver room of the future? Are they set? Because before the year, we were all talking about they could make these free agent signings or this draft pick. And I believe that the organization, the front office, is going to tell us exactly how they feel about their wide receiver room in the offseason. Do they sign a big name free agent? Do they draft a wide receiver in the first or second round? That will indicate to us how they feel. Because if they go throughout the offseason and they don't make any acquisitions, they're like, actually, no, Nico's our guy. Tank's our guy. Like that, we are happy with what we currently have. We're good. Then we'll know. But in this scenario, in this mock draft that we're using in the landing spots, Troy Franklin is their first round pick. That would tell me they are going to give Troy every opportunity to be the number one, connected to an extremely accurate quarterback who was producing 2 top 12 options before those guys got injured. So I'll take Troy Franklin here. I'm a huge fan of his game. This is a name, Badaki, that people either love or hate. We've seen the hate in the comment section. We've seen people tell us that he's far too low in our rankings. There's really no in between. But, between him and Xavier Worthy, they're both very good athletes, twitchy, in nature, great long run speed. You can use the word elite with these two names. You can't overuse that word, but, Xavier and Troy, both elite long run speed, both good route runners. Troy just has,
the better hands.
I would say better hands. He's still got some drop issues, but I would say he's just a more exciting prospect in my eyes. It doesn't mean that he'll be a better one, but you see a little bit of Marvin Harrison Sr. in his game, in my opinion. There's not a perfect comp out there because of his size. Again, that's his ceiling comp. I'm not saying he will be that good of a player. You see a little Devonta Smith in the size and the frame. I think his floor, you're looking at maybe what Jamison Williams is given Detroit. So that's a little bit concerning, but what would Jameson Williams look like in Detroit if he didn't have the ACL injury and he was just a first-round pick heading into camp, getting his rookie camp in, building that chemistry, no setbacks. So I'm a big fan of his game, and in this mock draft where he lands in the first round to the Texans, I can't let him pass this spot.
Yeah, we both love Troy Franklin. I would have considered him over Xavier Worthy, personally. And one of the things I did say in my rookie rising, because Tank Dell was on that video, there's only one name that scares me who hasn't gone off the board if they do draft that wide receiver going to. I said it in that video, and I kind of put like my stamp. I was like, Tank Dell is solidified in the slot. He's in an elite slot wide receiver that's going to be with CJ Stroud for a very long time. And if they do draft another wide receiver here, that is who I believe an even better wide prospect than Tank Dell, and an even better route runner, then I'm concerned. But Troy Franklin, somebody that plays on the outside, and they do bring and keep Nico Collins there, you have your three. You have Nico on the out, Troy on as your Y, and Tank it as a slot. So I can definitely see this could be a perfect landing spot.
And it's a great system to be a part of. I mean, we started talking about it mid-season. Like, the Texans turned into a mini Minnesota Vikings offense. Like, heavy pass offense, not relying on the run all that much, and throwing the ball at a very, very high volume. So, yeah. All right, so at the 111, Junior's on the clock. And let's see what Junior does with the 111. Let us know in the sleeper chat, Junior, who you're drafting there. I see some people fighting back and forth, by the way, in the comment section. I love the debates. just keep it respectful, guys. Keep it respectful.
You love to see
at this
it.
point of the year, there's no reason to be all out or all in on a prospect. Well, there's reasons to be all in, but there's no reason to be all out on anyone.
I think you should go back and watch and I said this last stream, go back and watch our first 2023 rookie mock draft and look how different that was. You're going to be laughing at some of the things we probably said or some of the people we were taking.
100%. Like, between now and April, everything is going to be a little bit different. Nothing is going to not change. All right, at the 111, this is a player that I would actually have rated as a higher prospect than Troy Franklin, but there's not a huge gap to the point where I wouldn't, depending on draft capital or landing spot, I wouldn't consider a change. I think he is one of the most disrespected players in this class. I'm a huge fan of his game. Emeka Egbuka comes off the board here at the 111. The issue with Emeka Egbuka in this mock draft is he goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So he gets drafted 23rd overall to the Steelers in these landing spots that we're using today. It's really hard to think about one of these wide receivers ending up in Pittsburgh. It is not a fun exercise. It's not fun to think about. Deontay Johnson there, Pat Freiermuth, George Pickens. I think you can make a strong case that Emeka is the best receiving option day one when he steps into that organization. That's not a slight to anyone else. It's just respect to Emeka. But you still have probably Kenny Pickett throwing you the football. That's not very exciting to think about. And it's not like those other options are going to disappear. I really don't like when I look through the landing spots of this mock draft that we use for these landing spots. This is the one name where I'm just like, I don't understand this pick. I don't understand why you put Emeka in Pittsburgh, and yes, Mr. B makes a good point. Like, they could absolutely trade away a Deontay Johnson if this happens. I'm sure the team and him aren't on the greatest terms at the moment with, the effort we've seen from him recently, but you still got Kenny throwing you the ball. Not exactly ideal, right?
It's not 100%. It's not ideal. And this was a player that I was talking about. If he does go to the Texans, I think he is an elite slot wide receiver that can come in and take anyone's job. Essentially, that is an elite slot wide receiver, in my opinion. One of the most underrated. One of the things that you kind of mentioned already. But yeah, coming into this landing spot, don't love it. I see a couple people saying, I see people saying, surely Deontay's out then. Surely they move on from Deontay. What's going to happen with George Pickens? There's a lot of frustration with George Pickens over there as well. Is that quarterback play? Is that usage? Is that him not getting the ball as much, or whatever it's probably everything, right? There's going to be a new offensive coordinator. Hopefully that helps Kenny Pickett, and I think that is the light at the end of the tunnel here. Yeah. If this is a true outcome for any wide receiver, not just Emeka, if Xavier, Troy, Rome, Malik somehow goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, the light at the end of the tunnel is who the hell is going to be that offensive coordinator, and you hope that they're going to help Kenny Pickett take the next step.
Yeah.
But yes, I love Emeka Egbuka. I love what he can do. I love what he can bring. I think his stock is going to rise potentially in the NFL.
There's not enough
NFL
Emeka Egbuka talk right now. Like, there's not enough. There should be much more talk about him. We love this player. And, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think there's a worse landing spot for a wide receiver in the NFL right now than the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, now that I'm actually putting it together in my mind, I think this would be 101 if we did a draft of what's the worst landing spot for a wide receiver this year. Just because I'm not sure you move on from Kenny. I'm not sure you do.
You can't. I don't think you can.
It's tough.
Unless they continue to lose and they have like a top 5 pick and they say, okay, do we look at these quarterbacks and just have Kenny in the books?
Yeah.
That could be an option, but that's a long shot from now.
All right. So the next player off the board, y'all know I absolutely love this player. And I think like he and Emeka Egbuka are right now not getting the respect that they deserve. Both have not been healthy this year, but both, when healthy, are extremely, extremely dangerous slot weapons that have versatility to play outside. So here at the 112, he went to the New England Patriots with the second pick in the second round. So top 34 draft capital. He gets to link up with Jaden Daniels. This is now Jaden Daniels' number 1 weapon. Careful. And I think I couldn't have dreamt up of a better landing spot for Jalen McMillan, considering the context. He comes off the board here at the 112. Absolutely obsessed with this landing spot myself. There's not a wide receiver. There's not a receiving weapon in New England that really scares me off of Jalen McMillan becoming the guy there pretty early on. And I think his skill set's going to translate very quickly into the NFL. All this guy does is get open. He's an elite slot weapon. Not an elite prospect, but specifically out of the slot. I think at worst, you're getting a Christian Kirk type of player. At best, you could be getting the next Keenan Allen. As crazy as that sounds, it's just how I view this player. Slot guru, great suddenness, versatility. You can put this guy anywhere. He's a real threat at the next level, in my opinion, with his route running prowess.
Yeah, look, Jalen McMillan is still somebody I've scouted, but I'm still trying to wrap my head around. I like him, don't love him. I don't know how to feel. Yeah. Still, even with me watching his film and understanding that he was injured and seeing it. I mean, I even dabbled a little bit into last year's film. Just still don't know how I feel about him. If he does get the draft capital, if he does get the landing spot, if he does get the hype in the offseason, maybe I reconsider. Maybe he does. A lot of things have to change for me to really consider Jaleel in some of these places. But look, anything can happen. Once again, still wrapping my head around him. Decent prospect, not in love with him.
I am in love with him. I think he's going to rise throughout the process. And, we released our rankings before that Pac-12 championship, and I said to everyone, he has not been healthy. Just wait until he's healthy. That Pac-12 championship game was the first game he was healthy, except for week 1 of the college football season. And I think people finally saw the real upside, the real talent of this player, and he's going to be able to shine throughout the college football playoffs. Y'all get ready for Jalen to put on a freaking show, and his stock is going to rise. Get in early. I promise y'all. I mean, this is a really, really exciting prospect. At the 2-1, this is where another name that we absolutely love comes off the board.
Oh, boy.
Talk it up. These wide receivers are just, man, what a class we have for this wide receiver room. Trying to find his name. Well, here he is. Brian Thomas Jr. comes off the board at the 2-1. I believe he goes to the Giants in the second round.
100%. The
So-
New York Football Giants here.
He links up with Drake May, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
But we're
correct.
huge fans of Brian's game. I mean, the upside is through the roof for this player. I mean, the movement,
Thompson.
the movement at his size is ridiculous. Absolutely
Incredible.
ridiculous. So
Yeah.
Brian Thomas Jr. goes off the board here. You can make the same case for Jalen McMillan, right? He'll instantly be in contention, if not already, the number one receiver on his team. No disrespect to Jalen Hyatt.
Oh no,
but
100%. He will be the number one. He will be the number one receiver on this team. Big body threat, contested catch guy, underrated route runner, and somebody that can get you the yards after the catch as well. He has all the attributes to be wide receiver one. So yeah, I completely agree. Wide receiver
Mr.
one
B's been
immediately.
saying he's been trying to think of a comp for Brian Thompson, and now you've got me saying it. Brian
Come on, baby.
Thomas Jr. There is not a perfect comp for this player, but the one that stands out to me the most is Anquan Bolden. And I think that just speaks to his fluidity with his size. I just think that's a very rare trait, and it reminds me of Anquan Bolden. But as far as size goes, I mean, you could see the A.J. Browns, the DK Metcalfs of the world with his size. Now, he's not as built as those players, but he's got some special size. He can be one of the premier alphas in the league. Now, he has a wide range of outcomes, you know. I think there's a high floor and a concerning ceiling, a low floor and a very high ceiling. But yeah, I mean, Anquan Bolden comes to mind a lot.
Yeah, this is one of the wide receivers that I said I will not be surprised if he is the third wide receiver off the board, or the fourth
I would be
wide
surprised
receiver
about
off the board.
third. I think fourth wouldn't surprise me though.
Yeah, and you know we're gonna, and I guess the one that I was talking about was Emeka at the time. You know, when we first did it, I said it was Emeka
Sure.
Buka. But yeah, Rome I guess is number 3 now for me. But yeah, look, I can see it. Like, you're gonna see, wow, I can't believe Troy Franklin and Xavier Worthy and Emeka Buka is still on the board because Brian Thomas just went off the board,
Jeez Louise.
right? And you're gonna be like, whoa, okay, where did he go? And all these landing spots and opportunities that he can go to. So yeah, I love Brian. I think there's great opportunity. I think he will be another wide receiver that we're gonna be surprised about coming into this
Huge
season.
fan of his game. I mean, you could take him as high as the 107, honestly, in this draft. But, you know, again, we keep saying this. There are so many good players, guys. Players are bound to fall. That's just how freaking good this class is. All right, at the 202, this is where we see a name go off the board. And, you know, I think we're getting some hate for not loving this player like everyone else. I would encourage people, like, let me ask you guys, why do you watch our content? Why do you watch Dynasty rookie content in general? Because if I'm honest, I think the goal should be to gather opinions, right? And if my opinion doesn't line up with yours, that's okay. But I think some people watch content just to hear their own opinions repeated to them, and I just don't get the point of that. Like, do you know what I mean? I feel like you should watch this content to, like, hear a bunch of different opinions from a bunch of different people to form kind of your own opinion along with film. And this is one of those names that we're getting a lot of hate on for not being as high as other people. And that name is Keon Coleman. He comes off the board here at the 2-2. You know, it's funny, Badaki, because someone commented on a video this morning and said, wait, you really liked George Pickens a couple years ago. You really liked Treylon Burks. Why don't you like Keon Coleman? I'm like, do you not see? I mean,
yeah, there's a big.
You're kind of making the no. I'm agreeing with him. Like, you're making the point for me. Like, I agree. I was too high on Treylon Burks. I agree.
Okay.
I was too high on George Pickens. But I believe I'm a better scout today than I was then. The goal is not to repeat my own mistakes. The goal is to learn and try and figure out exactly what translates to the NFL in today's NFL, right? I don't want to figure out what worked 10 years ago. I don't want to figure out, you know, I was wrong last year. Maybe I'm right this year, even though the principles haven't changed. Like, No, I think if you were in on Treylon Burks, if you were in on George Pickens, which, by the way, George Pickens wasn't like considered like a first-round pick by everyone. I loved him because people had him going in the 3rd and 4th rounds of the NFL draft. I thought he was way more talented than that. But Treylon Burks is a great example. If you were in on Treylon Burks, you need to ask, are you going to be in on Keon Coleman? They're not the same prospect by any means. Keon Coleman is a ridiculous contested catcher, great hands. He's a great athlete, but he's not a very good route runner at this point. He's not a good route runner. That's not well, I guess it is an opinion, but I truly believe that if anyone dives into Keon's film, they're not going to see an elite route runner or the traits to become an elite route runner at the next level. And that's what I see with Keon Coleman right now. A super talented athlete, freak athlete, size, speed combo. He's returning kicks for this team. Really fun to watch after the catch, but he is not a very good route runner at all. And you're going to have like a Kenny Golladay type of career where you have this kind of elite gunslinger kind of placing the ball for you. And I'm not saying that won't happen, but it's just not a player that I would like to bet on over all these other names that I really, really, really like. And Keon in this mock goes to the Carolina Panthers, a team full of wide receivers who can't separate.
Yeah.
Don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, and I'm not in love with the prospect. I have him lower than you do. He is somebody that I've been saying I don't see more than one true, NFL trait that he can bring to a team. In my opinion, that's his strong hands. And like Zach's been saying, I've been really aggressive, really harsh on him, and maybe I am. But I agree. I don't see it. If he does go in the first rounds, we'll reconsider. We'll understand. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe he goes to a better team, a good team that has opportunity.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to be wrong about Keon because anything can happen. Anything can happen with my guy. And
I don't think it's a bad pick to take him here in the 2nd round, but I mean, people who are considering him around Roma Dunze, I just don't agree, and I don't.
Yeah, and one of the last things I will say is, what are the traits? Well, I think of the NFL that we see now, and think about what are they looking for. Most teams are looking for separation, speed, and good hands. In my opinion, I guess Keon does have good speed, decent speed. Obviously, he's getting
for his size. His speed is very impressive.
Yeah. For his size, exactly, his speed is very impressive. But if he didn't have that speed, he would just be maybe an under-average wide receiver who has good hands. Yeah, he catches all the balls. But anyways, Keon Coleman here to the Carolina Panthers. Don't love the landing spot either. A lot of things have to go right for the Carolina Panthers right now, and for us to understand where the hell this is going to look like, because they need to change their organization. But we'll wait and see what that looks like.
Exactly. All right, at the 2-3, we have a running back coming off the board. Now, I don't personally have any confirmation that he's coming back. It seems like he is, but there is no confirmation from himself. Himself,
exactly.
That's what's making this difficult. Is like if this player is indeed coming back, someone leaked it and they're just not a good person for not letting him have that moment, right? Like, that's just the reality of the situation. If he's not coming back, then it's just a rumor that someone spread because, hey, rent is due. They want some money on Twitter now that Twitter's paying people. But I don't know if he's coming back or not. We can't answer that question yet. We don't know if Marvin Harrison Jr. is coming back or not. These questions are not answered by anyone reliable right now. So if anyone's telling you they know for sure, they're just lying to you. But Travion Henderson comes off the board here at the 203. In this mock draft, in this world we are living in, he goes to the Green Bay Packers in the 2nd round. He's a top 50 pick in the NFL draft. And I think it makes a lot of sense for the Packers to add a dynamic running back because Aaron Jones can't stay healthy. It's sad he can't stay healthy. The running back cliff is kind of starting to hit him. A.J. Dillon is A.J. Dillon. I mean, that's not an exciting player to build your run game around. Travion Henderson goes here at the 203, and he gets to join the Green Bay Packers. And I mean, that will be a very dynamic player for them to add. You think about all the years of Aaron Jones' success in Green Bay. Maybe you get that replicated by a guy like Travion Henderson, who has home run hitting speed, is a great pass catcher, a part of an offense that is ascending. So it's an exciting landing spot for him. And I think this is where running backs start to make sense for me, like a Travion off the board.
Yeah, Travion off the board goes here. It's going to be interesting to see if he does stay at Ohio State.
No official confirmation at this point.
Yeah, going to the Green Bay Packers. Interesting setup, interesting location. If Jordan Love continues to ball out, this is going to be a favorable landing spot for him, especially the way they love to utilize the running back position. So, this makes sense here. Travion Henderson going off the board.
And I was just going to say quickly as well, like, guys, there are so many, how do I say this, like, nicely? There are so many accounts on Twitter that really don't have your best interest in mind. Their goal is to grow as fast as they can. Their goal is to get as many clicks as they can. And now that Twitter is paying people, it might not be as much as other platforms, but their goal is really interaction. So we live in a world where everyone's obsessed with Dynasty and Devi and what's happened, or Portal, or, oh, this guy's coming back, NIL. Unless it comes from that player, then it's not time to take it as fact. Do you know what I mean? Like, you wait and you see what the player says, because
what happens,
there's an account I have in my mind in particular, and I guarantee you there's a lot of people in the chat who know exactly what account I'm talking about, that they spread rumors like wildfire, and people make real dynasty decisions off of that account. So keep in mind that most people on Twitter don't have your intention in mind. They don't really care. They just want clicks. And they're doing a good job at getting interaction, but they're not doing a good job of having integrity or facts behind their reports. So, just wanted to quickly say that.
Completely agree. I understand. Another running back goes off the board here for Sammy at the 204. And that's Trey Benson, your RB1, mine technically RB2, but he could be my RB1 if Travion does go back to college.
Yeah.
And Trey Benson does go to the Baltimore Ravens here. In that one quarterback mock draft, I actually like the Baltimore Ravens landing spot over the Green Bay Packers, and I did take Trey Benson over Travion Henderson. The utilization that we have seen from Gus Edwards, what we saw week 1 from J.K. Dobbins, and how we felt like he was going to get utilized by that first half of the game for J.K. Dobbins there. Trey Benson, not only can he tote the ball on the ground, he can also catch the ball as well. So going into that offense, I like that opportunity there significantly better. A more high-powered offense there with Lamar Jackson, somebody that they're going to give the ball to a lot in the red zone area, which we've seen with Gus Edwards, where he has like 8 touchdowns, had at some point in the season 8 touchdowns in the last 6 games, or something ridiculous like that. Trey Benson can easily do that in this offense going to the Baltimore Ravens at the 204.
Yeah, I love Trey Benson. This is definitely a name that some people don't like, Badaki. I mean, you and I, we do our own scouting, then we start releasing content, and then we start watching other people's content just to see where they stand and gather trusted people's ideas on players. And Trey Benson, along with Troy Franklin, and there's a couple other names like people have very strong opinions on. And there's a lot of hate on Troy Benson, which I found interesting. Like, I feel like if you really, I don't know, maybe it's a spreadsheet versus film thing. I'm not sure. But if you watch Trey Benson, I don't know how you don't see a potential exciting NFL running back. And one comment I found very intriguing. Someone said, if you take away all of his breakaway yardage, he's averaging a certain yards per carry. I found that hilarious, because I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah, I mean, take away anyone's breakaway yardage and their yards per carry is going to be pretty low. That's probably the case. What happens if we take away Travis Etienne's breakaway yardage this year, or Ken Walker's? I mean, I just found that a little bit funny to look at, because I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah, probably if you take away their best plays, they might not look as efficient with those best plays. But to me, I see a running back that's got size, speed. I like his burst. He's got great short area quickness for his size. Incredible strength through contact. He's a good pass catcher, even though he didn't get a lot of opportunity. They had a lot of good pass catchers at Florida State this year. But I like his vision. I mean, I think he's got very special vision. It reminds me of when I was scouting Breece Hall, not comparing them as players, but specifically that part of his game. But for him to go behind that offensive line in Baltimore, to play with Lamar Jackson, to get that kind of goal line opportunities, you're getting a really boosted up version of Gus Edwards, like a much better version of Gus Edwards. That's exciting to me. So when I look at his film, I compared him to a couple names. David Montgomery came to mind. I see a lot of similarities in the way their kind of play strength. Javonte Williams out of North Carolina, I see a lot of similarities between those two guys. And then Rashad Penny, when he was coming out of college, he got that first round capital. He was a very exciting player, but I mean, I think he can be a player that touches the ball 15 to 20 times for an NFL team. You put him behind Baltimore's offensive line in that offense, he probably has 10 rushing touchdowns in his first year. So I like that player a lot there. But of course, draft capital is going to be very, very important for
100%.
These running backs. At the
100%.
205, Badaki, we see a wide receiver come off the board. I really like this wide receiver. This is a class that, again, there's going to be names that you guys love that fall. I mean, that's just the reality of this draft class. So we already saw Xavier Worthy come off the board, and now we're going to see his teammate Adonai Mitchell come off the board. Where did he go in this mock draft, Badaki?
He went to the Dallas Cowboys, if I'm not mistaken.
In the
second round. Yeah, he
good
goes
landing
to the Dallas
spot.
Cowboys. Yeah, great landing spot. Place that he can flourish, especially the way Dak is playing and this offense is playing. I said this to myself yesterday. They can win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. I don't want it to happen, but they can win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they're a good team.
They're a
all
really
the way
good
around,
team.
They're a good team.
100%. And for them to get a weapon like this can make them an even better team. Obviously, Michael Gallup is not the way he used to be, and I think this will be the replacement.
I agree. Yeah.
More faster, a better route runner than Michael Gallup coming out of college there. And Adonai Mitchell is somebody that can come in, plug and play, be a wide receiver too, going with CeeDee Lamb here. And what we've seen from him has been decent. He has decent speed, decent hands, and he is a good size, an interesting size. Was 6'4", just under 200 pounds. So he has the ability to be not a field stretcher, but a deep ball threat. That can go up and get those contested catches at times because he has that size, that lanky build, and that's exactly what he can bring here from I would say an overall better. Actually, I don't know if I could say better Michael Gallup prospect because I can't remember Michael Gallup coming out of college, but I would say he's very close.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I think he's a much better prospect than Michael Gallup. I think his ceiling is, but he would play that role. Like he would definitely play that Michael Gallup role for them, and they need someone long term to kind of complement CeeDee Lamb. When they lost to Mark Cooper, I think they lost a real dynamic kind of part of their game. So I think he would be a great fit.
Just imagine
in Dallas.
they didn't give away. Imagine they didn't trade away Amari.
Yeah, they should have cut Zeke instead of Amari, but I mean, that's hindsight. I think most of us were saying that at the time as well. But okay, so Adonai Mitchell comes off the board, and next we get a quarterback in Bo Nix. Now, some people might be saying, wait, why is Bo Nix on the board? Why are some of these other names on the board? We're using landing spots. You can check the link in the description. And in this mock draft, Bo Nix goes in the second round. He did not get first round draft capital. He goes to the Tampa Bay Bucks. Love the landing spot for him. I mean, that's a great spot for him to kind of just play point guard. Get the ball out to Mike Evans if he stays, who knows. Get the ball out to Chris Godwin. It's a great place for him to kind of play the point guard position. He's got a great dynamic back in Rachaad White behind him. So I like this pick here at the 206, Badaki.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think you look at this landing spot, and I'm going to say this probably all off season, may sound like a broken record. These quarterbacks that you're going to be seeing going off the board, if they land at a team like this, immediate competition. Don't rule them out of not having a starting job unless Baker Mayfield makes it to the playoffs somehow. In my opinion, I think Bo's going to come in and immediately be competition and have the opportunity to be the day one starter coming in if they really like Bo Nix coming into this year.
By the way, Sean's saying Travion Henderson already announced he's staying. Sean, let me know what source that is, because we have not heard anything from Travion or his team. So you are commenting that like it's from him. I just am genuinely curious who said that? What source is it? Because he absolutely could. Would not surprise me if he stays. But at this moment, we haven't seen anything from him or his team. So let me know. But I agree. Love this spot for Bo Nix. It makes a lot of sense. And now you're on the clock here.
Yeah. A lot of places we can go. I think in this draft it really falls off, in my opinion. There are a couple players. There are a couple players that I like here. I'm
so excited about a lot of names.
I like these names. I don't love the landing spot here, and I'm going to continue with the quarterback that we haven't really spoken about, JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, I like that.
He goes to the Minnesota Vikings in the 3rd round. This is in the Superflex draft, kind of the same thing, the same thought process about Bo Nix. You think about his ability to go into a competition. What's going to happen? We've seen Josh Dobbs literally this past weekend or yesterday, get benched for Nick Mullins because he just didn't perform. Hasn't been performing.
Yeah.
Right. When is Kirk Cousins going to be back? Is it going to be Nick Mullins or Josh Dobbs? As JJ McCarthy comes in and he's the number one starter coming in day one, there are things that JJ does well, and that's exactly what he can do going into this offense here for the Minnesota Vikings. And it's not like he's short of talent. He has Justin Jefferson, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL draft. He has Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, Alexander Madison. And this mock draft, he gets Braylon Allen. Yeah. Right? So this is another quarterback that I can see step into an opportunity and step into an opportunity next year in day one, potentially being the starter. Does he win the job all season long? Maybe he wins a couple games, or maybe he's just absolutely trash. I like JJ McCarthy going here.
Yeah, I like it too. I'm not sure if JJ enters this draft. I think it might actually help him if he goes back. But again, we're living in this reality where he's drafted in the 2nd round for today's exercise. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes back. There's a lot of polishing
if he wins it all
to his game still. He absolutely could, win it all.
If he wins it all, I think he goes to the draft. But if he doesn't, maybe does his stock rise in 2025? Do you know the 2025 class?
The 2025 class is certainly not as strong at running back at quarterback than this class. There's no way it is.
Okay.
People can come out of the woodworks. What happened with Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels as well. So anything's possible, but at this moment, it does not. There's no oh my God, Caleb Williams is in next year's class. Drake Mays is in next year's class. So at the moment, no. I think if there's a team around him and he doesn't end up in the 1st round, he could come back. There's a wide range of outcomes, but he could play his way into the solid 1st round pick, and he could come. But it's too hard to really know at this point. There's a lot of unknowns at this point. But I like JJ. I like his game. I mean, I said it earlier on a different stream that all the intangibles, the things that you can't teach, he's got. Now you just need someone to coach him up. And I think that's a good, for him to go with Kevin O'Connell in that system, to be taught by Kevin. I mean, that is, that's exciting. So, but yeah, I see people talking about it. It looks like it's all from one source.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing moving forward until that specific player says, I'm declaring to the NFL draft or I'm staying at college. That's exactly what I'm going to, we're both going to be basing off.
Like we said, he could go back. We're not saying that it's not impossible. He absolutely could say, he could stay. That wouldn't surprise us, but it also wouldn't surprise if he declares. Right now, we're living in this reality where he's drafted in the 2nd round. Okay, moving on to the 208, Badaki, if you can draft a kicker for us there.
Oh, sorry, that's my fault.
Now Brandon is on the clock, so we'll see what happens there. Okay, so I'll take Xavier, Mr. Leggett, Go
Talk it up.
Lions. So we call him XL because this man is just, I mean, that's a man.
Lizzo, he's Lizzo big. You know?
He's not Lizzo big. He's DK big. He's AJ big.
DK, yeah, true. DK big, AJ big. He is one of my favorite wide receivers coming out of this class.
I feel like we could say that like
here.
8 times. We could be like, this is one of my favorite wide receivers. But yeah.
How about this? He is my favorite wide receiver that is probably going to go in the 2nd or 3rd round in the NFL draft.
I don't think he gets out of the 2nd. But
Yeah.
I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a grown ass man. He is huge, and he's probably going to run like in the 4.3s. It genuinely would not surprise me at all if Xavier Legette runs like a 4.37 at 6'3", 230 pounds almost. I mean, he's that kind of athlete. He's ridiculous. In fact, if you're just doing like a size comparison, I think he fits the AJ Brown and DK Metcalf size comparisons alone better than the likes of a Brian Thomas. I don't think he's a better player than Brian Thomas. But again, if you're purely doing a comp off size, then it makes a lot of sense. But my favorite comp for him was Cordero Patterson. I think that's an exciting player in today's NFL if you put Cordero Patterson on the team. But he goes to the Lions in the 2nd round. I think that's probably why he's fallen a little bit further, because he's never going to overcome Amon-Ra St. Brown in target share. He's never going to overcome Sam Laporta. And that's difficult to project him as a reliable fantasy option, right? So
I actually don't see, unless one of these elite wide receivers goes to the Lions, I see that being like a dead fantasy spot for somebody. Because I agree with you. You have Amon-Ra, you have Sam Laporta, you have Jahmyr Gibbs and Dave Montgomery, who both can catch the ball.
Yeah.
So then you
Jameson, who's developing.
Who's developing. You put anyone. You can put in Mika, Jalen, Xavier Worthy, both Xaviers, Troy Franklin. It's like,
not exciting.
Oh, it's like, oh, we
it's
really
exciting
don't
for
want
that
anyone going there.
franchise. It's exciting for that team, right? But from
100%.
a fantasy perspective, it's like you're not gonna get 10 targets in this offense in a game.
Yeah,
you're probably gonna get 4 to 5, and that's hard to rely on. So
yeah, it's gonna suck. It's gonna suck.
Yeah,
I hope that's not the case.
Let's see. I mean, who knows where he goes? This is just a fun exercise for now. But okay, so we have another quarterback who's coming off the board here. Badaki, where did he get drafted? Okay, so this guy gets drafted in the 3rd round of the NFL draft.
Yes.
We don't know exactly where he's going to get drafted at this point, okay, guys? He's still got to play in the college football playoffs. But Michael Penix Jr. comes off the board here at the 209. It's very possible that Michael can end up in the 1st round. It is possible. If there's a team that falls in love with his game, that feels like he's the missing piece, that can overlook the vast injury history. He tore ACL
100%.
in both of his legs. He's had like, I think 3, season-ending injuries. If a team can overlook that, then maybe he could end up in the 1st round. But I don't know that happens. I don't think he falls to the 3rd, but I think he's more of a 2nd round pick. He goes to the Seattle Seahawks in this scenario, and it's a great landing spot because why couldn't he beat out Geno Smith?
Exactly. And one of the biggest narratives coming off of this offseason, I think for a lot of NFL GMs that I think I've been seeing in like mainstream, I guess, NFL media, is some of these teams are going to be leaning on suitable and viable backup quarterbacks. And Michael Penix could be that guy.
Sure. Not
Not saying that he's just going to be a backup quarterback, but all these JJ, Michael Penix can easily be good, quote unquote, high tier backup quarterbacks going into the NFL that can beat out their quarterback. Like we've seen Geno Smith struggling. We've seen him struggle with injuries as well. Not only struggle on the field as a performance, but with his injuries. And Michael Penix, I think we would say if he was on this team right now, he clearly would have started yesterday over Drew Lock potentially. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe that's.
I mean, yeah, no, I think he would. I mean, it's hard to say.
Like there's a lot of different teams in the 2nd round, or not in the 2nd round, but in the 2nd half of the draft that need better backup quarterbacks that have been injured, like we've seen with Geno. Like even Daniel Jones, right? Daniel Jones got injured. Who's his backup quarterback? You think of when Baker Mayfield goes down, or if he does go down, you think of C.J. Stroud. When he went down, you got Davis Mills. Like these are the type of teams these guys are potentially going to go to.
Yeah.
But anything can happen here. But yeah, Michael Penix here at the
anything can happen.
109.
I'm more leaning towards
109.
him not being a first rounder than he is, but again, it's far too early to have any.
I would say this,
like concrete opinion on it.
I would say even if he goes to the Seahawks in the third round like he did here, and they keep Geno Smith,
he's worthy of a pick right here.
He's worthy of the pick.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so I'm on the clock here, and look, there's not really a super obvious choice here. I think if I'm in a tight end premium, there is. There's also a running back that I don't mind. Man. At the 210. Yeah, there's
It's
not
tough.
really anyone I'm in love with this at this point. There's players that I like. But we're going to go with a running back. I feel like you can take a shot on a running back this late. This is one of those names like Troy Franklin, like Trey Benson. Any player that people have a very strong opinion on. I found out recently that this is another player to add to that pool of names. That is
really?
Blake Corum. Yes, Blake Corum. I'll take
fair.
at the 210 here. He goes to the Houston Texans in the second round of this mock draft. No disrespect to the likes of Dameon Pierce, but y'all know I have not been a Dameon Pierce guy. I've been out on him for quite some time. And I think Blake Corum is a better prospect than Dameon Pierce. I think he fits this offense a little bit better. Now, do I think Blake Corum has like top 12 running back upside? No, I don't. I don't think he does. But I think he can be like a top 24 guy. I think that's within the realm of possibilities. I think he can win this job. So I'll take him there at the 210. All the guy does is produce. He's done that for a long time. I think he might have lost a step since last year. He's clearly not a better player than he was last year. But I'll take him here at the 210. Take a running back that got second round draft capital and kind of see what happens in camp with that competition. But yeah, I found out people really hated him, Badaki, because I put up a poll on our channel and asked people, which of these running backs would you rather have? And like, it's just full of people hating Blake Corum. Yeah. So okay. Super interesting.
That makes sense. Yeah. Super interesting here. Blake Corum, very interesting. I think we see this, not that I don't see Blake Corum as a better or worse prospect than Dameon Pierce. I don't think he brings, in my opinion, anything different than what Dameon Pierce is already bringing.
Sure.
But maybe that's where we see differently. I just feel like they're just drafting a better. I would agree. I would say he has better vision. He has the same run style, in my opinion, as someone like a Dameon Pierce.
Okay.
I just wish they maybe draft a pass-catching running back the way we've seen they've used Devin Singletary. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, you and I haven't seen Dameon Pierce the same way since the beginning, so that just might be a difference of opinion on a prospect.
I think overall this landing spot doesn't excite me for Blake. Maybe as it maybe I'm not saying it excites you, but maybe the way you're envisioning it.
I mean, I just said like it's a second round running back who might win out at camp, but that's as excited as I am about it. But yeah, I just think it comes down to us not valuing Dameon Pierce the same. I've never been a Dameon Pierce guy, and I don't think he's that impressive. I think Blake Corum's a better prospect personally. So we'll have to see what happens in camp between those two names. But yeah, it's not an exciting pick to make. But at the 211, Jatavion Sanders comes off the board, the second tight end. He goes to the Colts.
Yep.
And I think a different landing spot would have made me a little bit more exciting. I'm not anti this landing spot. I'm just really cautious about all Colts receiving options heading into next year. And it's the same reason I was this year, because of Anthony Richardson. Now, Josh Downs has had some incredible games. Michael Pittman's been incredible. And Michael Pittman was good with Anthony Richardson. He was. But we don't know exactly what Anthony Richardson will turn into as a passer. We still have yet to see that. We saw the same inconsistencies that we saw at Florida. We were hoping for a lot of growth from Anthony Richardson. this year as a passer, we didn't really get to see that, and he got that taken away from him. But I love the Jatavion Sanders pick. I would have been my pick if Blake was off the board. It's just hard if Michael Pittman's back, if Downs is there. Is Jatavion the third option? And what's the volume look like in a Anthony Richardson-led offense?
Yeah, this one is definitely going to all depend on Michael Pittman. I think if Michael Pittman walks, which I don't see how they can argue that he can walk or not give him the contract that he's potentially looking for coming into this year based off of the quarterback play he has had. That would be very, very surprising. But if he does walk, Michael Pittman and Jatavion Sanders does go here and they don't draft another wide receiver, like they don't draft the wide receiver in the first, hypothetically, I would be interested in Jatavion Sanders going to the Colts, even with the question marks of Anthony Richardson as a passer.
For sure. That makes sense. Next off the board is a player that you and I aren't really thrilled about. I'm sure the person drafting him isn't thrilled about either, but he went in the second round, I believe, to the Bengals, right? This is Roman Wilson off the board. He does get second round capital in this mock. I really, really struggle to see how he's a second round pick. I think this is another example of a player who will be really good in college, but I'm not sure it translates to the NFL. And I think that's a really difficult thing for people to kind of put their finger on. I mean, we're all trying to figure out how to see who translates, but I just don't see Roman being a crucial part of an offense at the next level. But he was drafted in the second round, and he's had some impressive games, but again, just his traits alone, I'm not sure they translate all that well to being like, I think at best he's a number 2 option, probably a third option in an offense.
I get you, and especially in this mock draft for Brock Bowers, I wouldn't love the landing spot, even if T walks. He is not somebody that becomes a number 2 target. He actually is a third target in this offense.
Yeah. What happens if Tyler Boyd is still there? Are you the fourth option? Do you become the third option at some point? What's the value in that? I mean, are you going to give us anything more than what Tyler Boyd gave us for the last 3 years? Is that exciting? A lot of questions. But next off the board, we get one of our favorite running back sleepers in this class, and that is sweet
talk it up,
baby Ray Davis.
Come on,
he goes to the Cardinals in the 4th round of this mock draft, so that's exciting to see. We're going to quick fire through the 3rd round. So Ray Davis goes off the board, a guy that you want to root for. Ray. I mean, everything he's ever had in his life, he's really earned. I love Ray. After that, we get a player that I love, but absolutely despise the landing spot in this draft. It makes sense for the team, but I hate it for fantasy. Ladd McConkey comes off the board here at the 3-2. He went to the Atlanta Falcons in this mock draft, which is honestly disgusting. They might be my second least favorite landing spot outside of the Steelers this year.
Yeah.
And in this mock draft, they didn't draft a quarterback until the 4th round, and that's Spencer Rattler. That doesn't make me more excited about any of those weapons in Atlanta. So,
shout out to Spencer Rattler, huh?
Yeah.
QB1. I would say this really quick on Ladd McConkey. I think the Falcons could be in contention of getting someone like a Justin Fields if the Bears move on.
That would be fun.
And if that is the case, Ladd is going to skyrocket, in my opinion. Just like Drake London and Kyle Pitts, especially what we've seen the success of DJ Moore and Cole Kmet with Justin Fields could be very interesting there. But yes, would agree.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, next off the board, a player who I don't believe is going to declare. I actually think he entered the transfer portal already.
I think exactly. He was going to say he entered the transfer portal.
But we'll go ahead and put him on the board here just to talk about him. Rocket Raheem Sanders goes off the board. There's not really much to say because I don't think he's actually going into the NFL. He entered the transfer portal, and he was truly... I can't say he was awful this year, but his 2022 film and 2023 film is like watching two different completely players, but he was injured the whole year. So how can you really justify that narrative? Next, we get a wide receiver from Washington, the third wide receiver from Washington off the board. Jalen Polk goes off the board here at the 304. In this mock draft,
so many like mixed reviews about him as well.
Polk goes in the 4th round to the Tennessee Titans, which isn't a bad landing spot. Well, it is, but in the sense of like, you could create a role for yourself there, right? But I think Polk is a great third option on a team. I think I comped him a little bit to Romeo Doubs as far as what he could offer a, like an NFL offense. I'm not like thrilled or excited about the player, but I think he is like just a good all-around player, like a Romeo Doubs, a Zay Jones, if you will. So yeah, he comes off the board there.
Yeah, makes sense.
And let's see what Giuliano is going to do here. I'm not even sure if he's still with us. If not, we'll okay, he is. We'll see what kind of pick he makes.
Yeah. Type in here, let's see.
So he goes Brendan Rice. We haven't had a chance to really talk about him on a live stream. This is
Jerry
Rice's son. Yep. He played with Caleb Williams this year. He is... Where did he go in this draft before I talk trash on him? I don't want to talk trash.
I'm trying to find him. Give me a second. Rice. He got drafted in the 4th round to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay, so maybe if Mike Evans walks, you could see a role. I'm not sure he's worthy of a 4th round pick.
Yeah, I think it's all going to be word of mouth with Rice.
He like from a technical perspective, you could tell he's been coached up his entire life. You can tell he's had great mentors around him. You can tell he really wants it. Like, this is someone that you respect because of the amount of work that they put in. But this is also someone who is just not the athlete that you really need to be to succeed at the next level. Do you know what I mean? He is just not an impressive athlete. Like, in a class full of size, speed athletes, Brendan Rice is maybe the most unimpressive athlete of those big bodies. You know, there's so many big bodies in this class, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I think about the names of like guys who haven't been off the board yet, but like a Trey Harris, a Torrey Horton, Devontae Walker, big J. Michael Sturdivant from UCLA. These like big body, size, speed athletes. He might be one of the most unimpressive ones. But again, great mentorship around him. He works really hard. So like he could be one of those hardworking names at the next level. But in a class that is so stacked, I mean, it really doesn't work in his favor, the lack of athlete that he is.
Yeah. I think for me, you see him and you think word of mouth. He has to rise his own stock. Well, obviously everyone has to rise their own stock, but like he has to do something impressive. Maybe he's at the Senior Bowl, Mobile, Alabama. I think that is the Senior Bowl. Whatever the case may be, that's all going to happen there. So it's going to be interesting to see what that looks like. Yeah.
Again, not a player that I am trying to hate on at all, but when you watch this class, he does not stand out from an athlete's perspective. But here in the 4th round, a running back goes off the board. Will Shipley. A lot of you guys who have played Devy football would know Will Shipley. He was a huge name, a huge recruit coming out of his high school class. One of the top recruits in the nation. He goes to Clemson.
Goes to the Raiders.
But yeah, he goes to the Raiders in the 4th round. Similar to Brendan, not an impressive athlete, really. Not a bad running back by any means, but I feel like athleticism at the running back spot in particular really has to stand out at the next level. I'm not sure I really see that. So yeah.
I get it. My pick here would be Malachi Corley. He goes to the Indianapolis Colts in the 3rd round. Once again, very interesting prospect, somebody that I like. A lot of screens for my guy, and one of the things Zach says, which I would completely agree with him, how can you evaluate him as a route runner? Every single pass is behind the line of scrimmage, but I think he's an incredible athlete as well. But if he does go into the Colts system with this narrative, I could be interested in him. Like I said, with the narrative of Michael Pittman walking, you get your Davion Sanders, you have Josh Downs, you get Malachi Corley. Um, Very interesting prospects all going to this Indianapolis Colts with Anthony Richardson. So I'll take him here.
Okay, so Malachi Corley off the board. Yeah. He's a fun athlete. It's just like one of those names where it's like, how do you judge this guy as a route runner? Because what routes have you run?
I agree.
Okay, so Tez Walker comes off the board here. He goes in the 4th round to the New Orleans Saints. We like Tez Walker. He's one of those names. He's a very good athlete, but just in this class, he just does. I'm not gonna say he doesn't stand out, but I would say this class is not in his favor with how stacked it is with players at his size. He goes to the 4th round to the Saints. I guess he'll compete with A.T. Perry, Michael Thomas. You know, anything's possible there.
Yeah, anything is possible there. And then Horton.
Torrey Horton off the board. He really made a name for himself against Colorado this year. A lot of people who are watching Colorado to begin the season with Prime Sanders there. And Torrey Horton just put on a freaking show versus Colorado, man. I mean, looked like an NFL wide receiver throughout that entire game, made some ridiculous catches, great ball concentration and ball skills in general. Made, I think, probably the catch of the year. I don't think that's an overreaction to say he probably made the catch of the year on the sideline versus Colorado. But, yeah, he's a really fun player. Another guy who, in a different draft class, like, would have been really, what's the word? You don't want to devalue these guys, but this class is just full of size, speed athletes, and it's just not the best draft class for him to stand out, is what I'm saying.
Right. Okay, yeah. I mean, crazy catch. I need to watch it. I don't think I've seen that catch yet.
Yeah, man.
I haven't.
Really impressive catch that he made. But I'm on the clock here, and I guess I'm spinning a narrative in my head where the Giants are moving in a different direction than Saquon Barkley, right? So you guys draft Drake May. You also draft Brian Thomas Jr. Saquon wasn't signed to a long-term deal. There seems to be a disconnect potentially between the organization and him. So in this scenario, I am just playing in my head that they have moved on from Saquon Barkley, and I'll take Marshawn Lloyd off the board. I love me some Marshawn Lloyd. Really, really exciting player to watch at the running back position this year. He's 5'9", 210, which I think is fine for today's NFL, but this is a lightning in a bottle type of running back. Great burst and long run speed. You know, it's a copycat league, and if teams are trying to replicate what Achane has given the Dolphins, don't hear what I'm not saying. He is nowhere near the talent of a Devon Achane. But if teams are trying to replicate Achane in a way where, like, give this guy 10 to 12 touches a game, he can just impact the game in a way few players on your team can, then I think, Marshawn Lloyd can do that for an NFL team. So he goes to the Giants here. Hopefully, he replaces Saquon, and he can carve out a role for himself.
Yeah, completely agree. We both like Marshawn Lloyd coming out of here. Good explosive, a little guy, not a little guy, but a guy that can get into space.
Yeah.
Quick burst here at the 2-0 or 310, excuse me.
Yeah. And
then last two picks here for Junior. And then G Rex here, put in the chat of who you are thinking.
Mm-hmm. And then if we have time, we'll leave time for Q&A at the end if we have time. Do us a favor, guys. Go ahead and smash that like button as well. Simple way for you to help support the channel. We appreciate y'all. Thanks for having these conversations. Again, whole point of today's streams, guys, in December, you don't have to be sold on anything yet. There's not a single thing you have to be sold on. Let's just have conversations, right? You don't have to agree with everything we say. It's all about learning together as we go. And Devin Neal comes off the board.
I don't think he got drafted in this mock draft, by the way.
He didn't get drafted in the mock draft we used. And if Shane's brother is going to watch our content, that's the only miss I would say. Okay, Shane's brother. Let's get Devin Neal in the draft. There's no way this guy's going undrafted. I mean, he's a very, very exciting running back. I think he probably goes round 3 to 4 of the NFL draft. But yeah, he's exciting. Super creative player to watch out of Kansas.
Yeah, I like him as well. 5'11", 210. Another guy, get him in space. Anything can happen there, which is exciting in a PPR standpoint when it comes down to these running backs.
All right, another tight end comes off the board here. That is Jaheim Bell. A lot of hype around this name as a prospect. I'm not saying it never really panned out, but yeah, maybe it just never really panned out. Maybe that is the best way to say it. But, he played well this year. And the person who just drafted him said, I don't know much about him, but he went to the Carolina Panthers in this draft. So that's why they decided to take Jaheim Bell, who went in the 3rd round to the Carolina Panthers. So it makes sense. They need weapons. He's a good athlete. Maybe he could develop into something.
Yeah, 6'3", 240. Haven't really looked too much into him. Haven't done too much of scouting. But a prospect that, anything can happen when it comes down to these landing spots, especially going in the 3rd round or 2nd round. Yeah, 3rd round here, actually. Excuse me.
Yeah. So we won't go into the 4th round just because Monday Night Football is going to start soon. But a couple names that we should mention that did not get drafted. Michael Pratt, quarterback out of Tulane. He went to the Jets in the 4th round. Jacob Cohen went to the Eagles in the 4th round. Carson Beck went to the Packers in the 4th round. Jamari Thrash out of Louisville went to the Browns in the 5th. Torrey Horton, who was drafted already, never mind. Sam Hartman went to the Saints in the 5th. Jordan Travis went to the Rams in the 6th. Bucky Irving went to the Commanders in the 6th. That's probably too low. I think Bucky will go higher. Cody Schrader went to the Colts in the 7th. So hard to draft him there, but a couple names that would really stand out. We'll leave some time here for a quick Q&A, guys. We'll leave about 5 minutes. Go ahead and drop some questions in the chat. But we'll start from Rain here. Rain says, I'm getting offered the 102, 107, 201 for CD and Zay Flowers. So basically Marvin Harrison Jr., Rome, and May, maybe like Keon. Do we think that's worth the deal?
I think this depends on how many starters you have. I mean, not really, because like if you're telling me I can get Marvin Harrison potentially, and then like Rome, do I want to do that for CD and Zay?
In most classes, the 102, you'd be like, yeah, give me CD Lamb. But if Marvin Harrison Jr., if you're in a super flex league and he's truly going to be your 102, I think that's even value between those two names.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
So I don't think I would do that deal. Brandon says, would you trade a 25 first and a second for a mid 24 first as a contender? Yeah, I would. If you're telling me I'm getting the 105 to the 107, I would. Would you rather have May with the Patriots or Daniels anywhere else? It depends on where that anywhere else is, to be honest. I think that's too hard to answer without knowing any of the context of the other names.
I guess maybe give us some, like, your top 3 other places, potentially.
Kenny Pickett is hot garbage, says, who's the quarterback for the Steelers next year?
Kenny Pickett.
Probably Kenny Pickett.
Unless they lose out, which I highly doubt, and they somehow have a top pick, but, they're nowhere near having... They're 7-6, so if they lose out, I don't think they can have a top 10 pick, in my opinion. I don't think that's the way it goes.
Joseph says, would you trade Olave for a mid-24 first? You're probably getting like a Rome Odunze. Look, if that is in the top 6, I would consider it.
I would. I think I would if I had top 6.
If it's in the top 6, I would consider it. I'm not saying I would 100% do it, but if it's outside the top 6, I don't think I would. But you're getting the likes. Like if you can get Malik Neighbors instead of Olave, then yes, I would. But it's very, very close once you get to the Rome Odunze type. Yeah, John, we saw that the Falcons and Steelers are going to be battling for Fields if they trade him.
Now it's going to be the Giants, brother, if we don't have a top 5 pick.
Andrew says 10-team superflex with 4-point passing touchdowns. How much would you guys trade for Justin Herbert?
4 passing touchdowns.
Multiple firsts. 2, 3 first-round picks, depending on where they are, what class.
Yeah, 100%.
Waddle or Neighbors if he's a Jet. Be Neighbors for me. I think he's a better
Neighbors.
prospect.
Mm-hmm.
Where would Jonathan Brooks go in here? Well, depends on where he's drafted. If he does declare, we haven't heard any update, but if he declares, he'd be easily a mid-second round pick, if not higher.
Yeah, 100%. I think if Travion does go back to college, and he's my RB2 in this class, even with that torn ACL. But all depends on where he does go. Like if he goes into the 4th, 5th rounds, maybe we would reconsider. But if he's still a top 3rd round pick in the NFL draft,
yeah,
I think he's RB2, especially with that ACL.
Let's see. Do you think the drop off is a 107? We talked about this. I think the first drop off is a 105, but it's like you're still getting incredible players after that. So, I mean, really, you could get a mid first round talent in the middle of the 2nd round this year. That's how good this class is. Jordan says landing the 101 and the 104 in a rookie draft. Guy with the 102 and the 103 has a similar lineup. We are each looking at wide receiver and quarterback. Prefer Williams and Neighbors or Marvin Harrison Jr. in May. I think we actually saw this already in a comment, and my reply to you was, it's a coin toss. Maybe you're a different person, but someone actually already asked the same question. It's a coin toss. It really is. I don't have a strong opinion on this one.
Yeah, there's no strong opinions. I think it's a win-win either way. You get the elite wide receiver and not the elite quote-unquote quarterback, I guess, but you can get 2 elite quarterback and wide receivers and Neighbors, depending on how you view May.
I think you're getting 2 incredible options here. I don't think there's a real strong opinion for me. John, if he wasn't injured for sure, I love that. He could. Yes, it is tight. Yes, I think you could squeak out more personally.
Yeah.
Higgins or mid first, I think I'd go with the mid first there.
Mid first as well. Yeah.
What range of picks would you try to trade for a random first next year? 12 team. That's a little bit of a broad question, but
what range of picks would you try and trade?
I would send multiple seconds in a future year for a first this year. I would send a first next year for a first this year. Those kind of options. Lot of different outcomes you could have there. 12-team Superflex start 9 contending. Joe B, 24, 1.1, 212, and a late 25 first and a second for Josh Allen, T, and Jacobs. Give me the Joe Burrow side personally.
111, 212, and 25 late and a second for Josh Allen, T, and Jacobs. I think this is, yeah.
You're contending, so obviously you don't want Joe Burrow right now. But I'm saying
exactly.
The most value is on the Joe Burrow side, in my opinion.
It's exactly on the Joe Burrow side. I would agree. I think it all depends on if Josh Jacobs is going to stay long term as well. It's tough. Who's going to be you guys' favorite veteran target for contending during draft hype season?
I actually couldn't give you a good answer right now. I'm sure we'll have videos on that in January. But right now, I couldn't really give you a great answer. Maybe Keenan Allen for me. My
first one would, off the top of my head, if Mike Evans would be Chris Godwin. He's somebody that was something you guys should buy last year, because I also thought that they would be in contention to get someone like a Caleb Williams, but that's clearly not the case for the Bucks. But anything can happen, and if Baker Mayfield likes to target Mike Evans and he walks, surely it should go to Chris Godwin. At least that's the way I'm thinking.
Yeah. What would you set Jalen Hurts trade price? Probably 4 first-round picks and a piece.
And a bag of Skittles.
But it depends on where those picks are, right? There's so much context that you need there. Because is one of those picks the 102 or the 101 of this year's class? Because that changes things, right? Unicorn says, would you be worried about Neighbors before Dunze if Neighbors goes to the Titans? Would you be worried about Neighbors? No, I wouldn't, personally.
Would you be worried taking Neighbors before Doomsday if Neighbor goes to Titans? No. I think there's a lot of narratives, though. I mean, like, where does a Doomsday go?
Yeah.
You know, I think there could be narratives to where Doomsday can easily go ahead of Neighbors, but, like, that all depends on how you feel. Are you going to take the talent over the location, or are you still going via talent, or location over talent, or talent over location? So it all depends on how you feel about that.
Here's another question. Trevor here says, 225 first or a 1 and 2 this year? I think we got to have some more context there, man. I mean, where is that first round pick this year? Where is that second round pick next year? And, you know, all I'll say is be careful sending away so many future picks just because you have no idea where your team's going to end up being.
Yeah. I think the hype right now on this 24 class is getting you excited.
Is valid.
Yeah. And it's getting you excited to sell your 25 first.
Which you could, but again, need more context there.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, we'll answer 3 more. Trevor, okay, so sorry, 2 more. Lab says I have the 102, 103, 105 this year. Need a quarterback and a wide receiver. Is this a deep class where I should consider trading back from the 105? Honestly, dude, I think you're about to have a team, like for your dynasty team, this will change your entire team completely. You keep those picks, in my opinion. You keep the 102, you keep the 103 and the 105, and you take best player available every single time. And I'm confident that your entire team's trajectory is going to change overnight.
Yeah, I would completely agree there.
Scott Landry says 12-team Superflex PPR start 8. Team has 1-2, 1-4. Current quarterbacks are A-Rich and Cousins. Should I go for 2 quarterbacks and Marvin Harrison Jr.? Yeah, that's what I would do.
Yeah, 100%. You have 3 picks right there. 102, 103, 104. 100%.
So Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake May, and Jaden Daniels if you want. I mean, we were saying this last year as well. We might not have had Stroud as our quarterback 1 when all was said and done after the draft, but what we consistently told people is do not take JSN over CJ Stroud. You take CJ Stroud. In a super flex league, you take the quarterback with the top 5 draft capital every single time. It may not work out, but you may have one of the most valuable assets in Dynasty football. So that's why I always say you take best player available and you figure it out from there.
Agreed.
But that's it for today, guys. We appreciate you. We're going to go watch some Monday Night Football. Again, if you want access to us on a more frequent basis, then there is a couple things that you can do. The first one is to sign up to the Flock Fantasy website with our promo code LAND. You can scan the QR code here. I will also put the link in the chat right now. And just quickly, so you guys know what you would get if you do decide to sign up and support the show, you'll get a live Dynasty team review from us. We'll tell you the kind of trajectory of your current team, where you stand in the landscape of your league, some trades that you might be able to make. So you get a Dynasty team review. You get our rookie scouting and ranking package, which is a PDF just chock full of information about this class, which consistently updates. It has our rookie rankings in it as well. You get access to our regular Dynasty Superflex and 1 quarterback rankings, the community rankings that we gather from different data points on our website, the Dynasty Trade Calculator, which is the best calculator in the industry by far. You get all the articles from the best minds in the industry over there. You get the Fantasy Hotline, which is a direct DM to us for advice. You get access to our Dynasty Trade Show, where we can look at your Dynasty trades every single week. I mean, I truly don't think that there is a better value in the industry right now for what you get by supporting us over on the Flock Fantasy website. So definitely consider doing that. And if I can make this horizontally centered, there we go. Definitely consider doing that. DM us if you do. We'd be happy to answer any of your questions. And all love, guys. We appreciate you. Good luck tonight in Monday Night Football.
Yeah. Love.